We are human beings. Each and every one of us. This must not go on. This injustice must end.
An increase in the number of terrorist attacks highlights the danger posed by augmented citizens.
I once thought I could save the world. Now look at it.
Help me!
Sometimes, you just have to let go and embrace what you've become. They've worked from the shadows for years, shaping the future, manipulating lives, controlling information. Innocents have died as they play their game.
We will not sit idly by and allow our rights to be eroded out of fear and ignorance any longer. We will not be herded into ghettos and treated as outcasts. We will stop at nothing.
The world is different now. The old rules no longer apply. So much pain. So many lies. Their darkness must end.
This should be your fight as well, brother. The promise of a golden age is over.
What's up, guys? One of my subs had suggested that I do some personal review of the E3 conference, and a lot of stuff went down, and I thought, why not? I should do that. Now, what you just saw is the trailer for Deus Ex Humanity Divided. The only thing that it's missing, this particular version, I couldn't get the others, is that it's not showing the special protective black suit-like substance, which I'll be talking about in a bit when I get to the augments. Now, I show this trailer because, well, one, I don't think everyone's seen the Deus Ex stuff, and it didn't feature that prominently at the E3 conference compared to some other stuff. And frankly speaking, Deus Ex Humanity Divided, of the games, is one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most. Now, from what I've gathered from my research, this game, Deus Ex Humanity Divided, features, again, the fantastic protagonist, Adam Jensen. I never asked for this, that guy. Really, really awesome protagonist. As well as you can hear in the music, the fantastic, fantastic soundtrack of Michael McMahon. This guy is at least one of the best composers for video game, computer game tracks, music, trailers, if not the best, depending on your taste, but really makes fantastic stuff. He's coming back. Adam Jensen's coming back, including his really cool voice actor. And the game takes place 2 years into the future, 2 years removed from the events of Deus Ex Human Revolution. Now, one question that immediately comes to mind is, will this game reflect the choices you made in the previous title? Because at the end, spoilers ahoy, you can choose to cover up various things, you can choose to reveal various things, etc. Or will the developers just go for a kind of canon ending if they decide, and it moves on from there? In any event, from what I hear, you're not working for Seraph Industries anymore. You've moved on and you are working for an anti-terrorist organization, really high up one. And basically, from what I can gather, from what I've heard, from what developers have talked about, the divide, hence humanity divide, has gotten bigger and bigger between non-augmented humans and augmented humans. Augmented humans, to some extent, are being basically herded and rounded up and put into ghettos. Sounds like a familiar scenario. And as a result of that, there's been terrorist activity against normal humans, etc. That's all we know. Of course, the shadowy organization, presumably the Illuminati, is still involved. We already know all of that from the previous title, and in the trailer, of course, Adam Jensen says, well, they control everything from the shadows. We also see the holographic TV reporter again, Elijah, or Elia, I think her name is. And so that seems to be the story, what little we can gather so far. A lot of it takes place in Prague. Prague's a really cool city. And, without knowing the details, me personally, I truly love the dystopian, dark future that Eidos, or I don't think it's Eidos, they were the producers, where Eidos Montreal is developing. It's just that sort of dystopian, dark future where these things are openly discussed, the things that happen in the real world, not necessarily to augmented human beings, but people with differing views on, well, let's face it, racial conflict, ethnic conflict, etc. This stuff is all being put out there in this game, and it just has that really cool dark undercurrent, and you're not really sure what to do as Adam Jensen. I mean, you try to do the right thing, but what's the right thing? I mean, according to what we've seen, augmented people are in fact being put into ghettos, separated, probably being lined up for extermination on the one hand, but then the terrorist activities are a danger and a threat as well. Who knows? As far as the technical aspects are concerned, they seem to have added a whole bunch of new augments. Some of the old ones are obviously back, the blades, etc. You're not going to start off as a normal human. This is 2 years onwards. You've been supplemented. Now, one of the things that they didn't show, excuse me, they didn't show at the end of that particular trailer I showed you because it got cut off, is the first introduction of nanotechnology. Now, as you know from previous Deus Ex titles, the really old ones, that the first augmentations were mechanical. They moved from mechanical then to the nano, etc., etc. So we're seeing the first bit of that. And this is sort of a protective black shield that Adam Jensen can generate, which allows him to go into the open and take bullet fire and still keep on going. In addition to a bunch of other augments, mechanical augments. Saw him use some kind of weapon that looked like a pulse ray or something, where he sort of blows the enemy back, as well as sort of little machine guns built into his wrists. Stealth is back. It looks really, really impressive. I think it's just going to be, in terms of the graphics, just a better version of what we saw in Human Revolution. And the story, I can imagine, is going to be quite powerful, quite good. It's always interesting to find out what's happening and who's behind everything. And I give Eidos Montreal enough credit to not reveal everything, in the sense that I'm thinking here, okay, we've seen the trailer, there's this big bad guy who's kind of leading the terrorists. This can't be the story. It's not that simple, right? He's the big bad guy. There's something more going on, obviously. But yeah, and I imagine you're going to have the option to play stealthily or not. I'm curious what they're going to do about the distribution of experience points, because if you wanted to just go gun-ho in Deus Ex Human Revolution, you were penalized and you received less experience than if you just disarmed enemies, or rather knocked them unconscious, non-lethal. That is, non-lethal techniques, non-lethal approach was better rewarded than lethal. I suppose there's some merit to that, but honestly, sometimes with all the augments you have, isn't it just amazing just to go gun-ho and just blow everything out of the way? We'll see how that's handled, but overall, I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far, the few interviews that I can find, and it looks like a really, really solid game, and I can only expect it to be a better version of Human Revolution. They learned from whatever the input they got back then, etc. Really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to Adam Jensen returning, fantastic protagonist, great voice actor, and Michael McMahon music. It might be my favorite. It's one of my favorites of any composer for video games. Really, really powerful stuff. Moving on, of course, everyone's discussed Fallout 4. Well, you know, you've already seen the trailer, I imagine. What can I say? It looks really, really good. There seems to be some controversy surrounding the idea of a voice protagonist. I can't say this really bothers me. I know some people feel very strongly about not having one, but the way I look at it, everything progresses and games progress, right? And the reality is more and more, with very few exceptions, and those tend to be indie games or games that are crowdfunded, people want voice actors giving their characters a voice, and they want to hear what the character has to say. I do not fault Bethesda for doing this, and I'm kind of indifferent to it. Indifferent with slightly preferential towards the voice. I think the voice thing could be pretty cool, but I'm cool with it with or without. But the voice is there. That's fine. Doesn't bother me. The crafting looks amazing. Over 700 modifications to weapons. Building the house, that area, the settlement. It just looks like a lot. They've done a lot. I have no idea what else is in the game. They didn't show very much. I'm curious about the leveling system. They didn't show very much about leveling, how it's leveled, how the perk system works. Maybe it's going to be similar to Skyrim. Obviously not with the same, HUD in Skyrim, but similar. Who knows? It looks really good. I'm really looking forward to it. And one thing, though, I'm pretty sure about, it's going to be the best Bethesda sandbox game they've released so far. The graphics are not mind-blowingly good, but it's fine. It's better than Skyrim. You don't play Bethesda games for ultimate graphics. You play for the exploration value, for the interesting quests sometimes, for the little backstories behind things, especially in the Fallout world. And Boston's not too far from my hometown of New York, so yeah, it looks good. And the great thing about games like this, like Fallout 4, for example, is the vanilla version that's going to be released on the 10th of November of this year is almost certainly going to be the shittiest version. Why? Because mods are going to come. Within a few months, they'll have graphics enhancing mods, gameplay enhancing mods, and a year later the game might be 100 times better. I mean, who knows? There's just so much replayability. I just think it's win-win. So I will play vanilla for sure, but I'm definitely looking forward to mods and how that's all going to work for Fallout 4. And yeah, really looking forward to that. Of course, in the meantime, I need to save up to get a really nice gaming rig. I'm aiming either for having enough money in September or October, enough time to get Fallout 4. I don't really see a rush, even if it does take till November, whatever. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to. These are the two highlights for me. Deus Ex, which isn't coming out until the beginning of next year, so that'll be a long wait, but I'm really looking forward to it. I like the story. I like the dystopian vision. It appeals to me. Fallout 4, what can I say? It's Fallout 4. Been waiting for a long time. Already thinking about what kind of build I'm going to be doing. Some sort of stealth melee. I always like that. Who knows? But there's just so many possibilities, especially with weapons modifications. On to other titles. I looked at the other stuff there. Those were the two things that interested me the most. Let's talk about BioWare. Well, it was really funny, actually, I have to say. I was watching the E3. Sorry, I have a little bit of a hoarse throat. The E3 presentation by BioWare, and the EA guy comes. I call him the propagandist. He's like Joseph Goebbels, right? It's incredible. I mean, the guy sounds like a mouthpiece for the NS Ministry of Propaganda. But here at EA, blah 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 blah. The only thing that really interested me of EA-related stuff was Mass Effect, and what they showed was rather paltry. That is to say, we didn't get to see a whole lot of what Mass Effect Andromeda is going to be. This is what it's called. The only thing we found out is Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, much to the chagrin of many people, including myself, I'm not mega disappointed, but I am somewhat disappointed. Mass Effect Andromeda in the single-player campaign will only allow you to play a human, either a male or a female. So all this talk about racial, being able to play different races, that's not going to be an option. Of course, you're going to have alien crew members. That's a given. It's Mass Effect. And exploration and blah, blah, blah. And of course, they're touting their graphical greatness, due to the Frostbite engine. Hey, maybe not. After all, the graphics are, in my opinion, for me, generally speaking, graphics are secondary to other stuff. If the story sucks, I'm not a fan, even if the graphics are amazing. They can enhance things, but yeah, from what we saw, it looked pretty cool. Remember that leak back a couple of months ago? Well, the reality is that I suspect a lot of that material is true, and so yeah, we're going to be kind of looking for the neo-protheans, the remnants, and blah blah blah. But the reality is, in addition to that games, stories, novels, books, and indeed human entertainment activities in a general sense thrive off of tropes. There are tropes that are just universal to human beings, that are recurrent, and we see them over and over and over again, and this is not going to be an exception. So even if we are rummaging through the wreckage of the quote-unquote remnants, the new Protheans, so what? Maybe it's going to be done more creatively. And I was quite pleased to hear that Mac Walters does not have all that important a role in the writing, I don't think, and that the writer for Halo, in fact, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but in any event, the writer for Halo is doing in Halo, although I've never played it, apparently it's a good game. It's been written really well. So we might expect something really good. In addition to that, there'll be a multiplayer almost certainly, or perhaps even certainly. Hopefully they up their game. I've gone on record as saying this. I probably have never had that much online gaming fun as I did with Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. Maybe it was because the game itself was really good, although I doubt it. Maybe it was just because the community was kind of fun and funny. I don't really know. It's hard to say, but I can only hope that they reproduce that to some degree and make an even better product. However, it's difficult to say. Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was a fluke of a success. It wasn't planned. They just said, well, let's just try this out. And everyone was against it. Oh, I don't want multiplayer. I don't want multiplayer. And then all of a sudden, it was really fun. And moving forward, one thinks, well, can they reproduce that with intention as opposed to just being a fluke? I don't know. Now, some other games that sort of caught my personal radar. Ubisoft. Well, I have a lot of mixed feelings about Ubisoft, especially because I play Ghost Recon Phantoms and they don't do jack shit for that game. Maybe because it's Ubisoft Singapore and they just don't have a big studio. But I got to say, Ghost Recon Wildlands, as far as a co-op multiplayer, looked really, really good. Division looked mildly interesting. I've been waiting for Division for a long time, but then again, they keep on downgrading. It's taking forever, so who knows? And a game called Honor, which, looked kind of interesting. Sort of co-op sword fighting against other people, sword fighting. And yeah, well, Bethesda produced, of course, Dishonored 2, which is now going to give you an option to play a female as well. Oh, hooray, hooray, whatever. But that looks quite interesting. Never really played Dishonored. Well, never played Dishonored. But as I said, I think guys know me by now. I don't play a million different games. I can't do that. My mind is just too, it gets too cluttered. I tend to focus on a few kinds of games, a few titles, and really get into it. And for me, the three games that interest me the most are the distant Mass Effect Andromeda, which is probably going to be my last chance I ever give BioWare, assuming I'm still alive by then. They said holiday 2016. One can only surmise that means Christmas or something. That's a long time away. And in addition to that, of course, Fallout 4. Everyone's been looking forward to that. And for me especially, so it's a special interest, Deus Ex. Humanity Divided. I love dystopian visions. I love the darkness. I love just that world, the image they create. It really kind of it sets the tone and the pace for the game, I think. And I think of all those titles, I'm most looking forward to Deus Ex Humanity Divided, as opposed to, say, Mass Effect, because I know Eidos Montreal makes good games. Deus Ex Human Revolution was a really good game, and I think they're just going to improve on that and top it. and should be interesting side characters as well. Who knows? Maybe we'll see David Sarif again. I don't know, but those are kind of more or less my impressions of E3 conference. Yeah, there were other games, Doom and stuff, didn't really interest me, so I tend to be pretty focused about what interests me and what doesn't. And one thing I do hope is that we hear more about the next Mass Effect rather than these, just kind of still photos. I'd like to see some actual gameplay, maybe some multiplayer gameplay as well. I saw a little bit of Deus Ex, and maybe Bethesda will release a bit more information, maybe about how the leveling system works, and that might be pretty interesting. But that's what I have to say about that. On a final note, I'm thinking, let's consider the fact that Bethesda's implemented a voice protagonist for Fallout. Now, I love Fallout, but at the end of the day, I am an Elder Scrolls guy primarily. I'm much more of an Elder Scrolls fantasy guy than I am post-apocalyptic guy. I love the post-apocalyptic, but I love it slightly less than I like the Elder Scrolls. And I speculated before, what part of Tamriel is the next one going to take place in? I would almost certainly bet someplace in the south. I don't know where in the south, but I don't think it would take place in the north. There's been a lot of stuff done in the north. Voice protagonist, can you imagine? I think the way they would do it would be just like they did the shouts. So you have, for all human races, basically the same voice, which, whatever, male, same voice, and female, same voice. Orcs would have a unique one, male and female. Elves would all sound the same, except, you'd have the male and female, and the beast races would be different as well. So you'd have a unique beast race, male, female, Argonian, respectively, and Khajiit. And orcs, of course, would be unique. Elves would all be branched together with one male voice, one female. Same thing with the humans. Kind of see how they're probably going to do it that way. Why do I say probably? Because when you move forward with a voice character in one game, you're almost certainly going to implement it in the next. I mean, not having a voice character in the next Elder Scrolls title seems, well, it would be a bit odd, I think. But who knows? We'll see what happens. I'm even psyched about the next Elder Scrolls, even though that's got to be a long, long time away. Fallout 3 came out in, 2008, I believe? Or is it 2006? God, I've lost track. And so we waited either 8 years or, 9 years, or we waited, if it came out in 7 years, so it's close. I guess we can expect, I guess we can expect the next Elder Scrolls title in 2018, probably. Wow, that'd be a long, long time. Maybe 2017. No, I doubt it. It's going to be 2018. They're taking their time, but that's good. So, before I start completely rambling, that's all I got to say. Just my views. There's nothing special about this video. But yeah, looking forward to Deus Ex. Looking forward to Fallout. Kind of looking forward to Mass Effect Andromeda in a sense of I'm curious about what they're going to do. Really, really hard to save the franchise after the disaster of Mass Effect 3, and specifically the ending, although I didn't like the entire single player for the most part, with a few exceptions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys the next time. Bye-bye.